Started. Kia ora koutou, no mai, haere mai, hello and welcome. My name is Jordan. I'm speaking to you today from Pōneke, Wellington in Aotearoa, New Zealand. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a member of the organising team for Imagining Abolition and will be moderating this session, Building Community in the Wake of Incarceration. I want to make you aware, first of all, that closed captioning is available as well as ASL interpretation for this session. If you'd like to view a live transcription, please click the live transcript button on the bottom menu of your Zoom screen and select show subtitle. Also, in order to secure this space, you unfortunately cannot rename yourself once you have entered. So we're really sorry if you were unable to add your pronouns to your name, but we urge you to do so before you log into the next session that you're going to be a part of. In dreaming of this event, our team was inspired by words adapted from Project NEAR. Abolitionist futures are not compatible with white supremacy, settler colonialism, misogyny, heterosexism, transphobia, ableism, and classism. Yet these systems of oppression are all around us and affect us even in this event space. The hope our team has for this session and all our sessions is that organisers, presenters and participants, particularly those of us who carry a lot of privilege, are mindful of the differential impacts of power and have the courage to hold to account anyone here who exercises power in ways that enact harm. If one of our organisers removes you from the session, our intention is not to punish nor to exclude you, but to practice care for the abolitionist community that we're building. If you would like to post any reflections about the conference, you're welcome to use the hashtag #ImaginingAbolition2021. And now it is my pleasure to introduce the organisation that will be running this session. The Second Life Project is a radical, all-volunteer community project that builds toward collective freedom, centred on the wisdom, goals and vision of citizens who have been directly impacted by prisons. The community includes formerly incarcerated folks, survivors of trauma and violence, academics, folks with mental illness, folks with disabilities, entrepreneurs, folks with incarcerated loved ones, and folks without direct experience in the criminal justice system who have a passion for connection and transformation. The humans of the Second Life Project are committed to alternative forms of justice, building community for everyone, and the power of self-governance. So it is my absolute pleasure to hand over to Zarina. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was such a wonderful introduction. And I want to introduce Bert, who's also on this call, who's part of this community. And I think I saw Abby, who's also on here. So that was wonderful. I'm going to skip our first few slides straight to the acknowledgement. So I just want to say that this presentation and much of our community are based on a lonely land, which is presently known as San Francisco. Our community contributes a voluntary land tax to the Sogorea Te Land Trust, and we encourage others to do the same. We also want to acknowledge the many people and communities who've inspired this project and been doing this work for far longer than us, who've led the way in generations past. We also want to honour those of us who are currently incarcerated or have been re-incarcerated, and to those whose lives have been lost waiting to come home. So this is all what we're hoping to do here is to share ways from our experience that you can create community beyond the divisions created by prisons and traditional criminal justice systems, to transform the harms inflicted by the carceral system, and to leverage the unique experience of those harmed by prisons to break free and help everybody break free, in fact, from oppressive societies. We'll be drawing from our personal experience, and we will share not only the ways to build communities like ours, but ways to transcend the walls built by the prison industrial complex that imprisons people who have been directly impacted by incarceration even after they have been released. Our goal here is to help abolitionist communities bridge the gap between activists and returning citizens, and to start learning from the wisdom of those who've been directly experienced by the impact of institutions that we are trying to abolish. So Second Life is an autonomous, self-determined, intentional community built around transformation and empowerment by, with, and for formerly incarcerated humans, manifesting alternative justice approaches and values. We also build homes centered around personal and collective transformation and healing. The issue, which I'm not going to go into too much here because I think everybody knows, but specifically for our community, is this. 162,000 humans are serving life sentences in US prisons. That's one out of every 9 people in prison. California has the highest percentage of prisoners serving life. The few that get to be found suitable, in air quotes, for parole, return to an alien world, one of the most expensive cities in the world, and a society in the midst of a loneliness epidemic. So all the people in our community served life sentences, which is why I bring this up. So the issue then is how to build the social bonds that sustain life after carcerality. Our theory of change is really very simple. It is simply putting people into a shared space. That is creating windows where there were once walls. My experience has been that when you segregate people, they lose the access to be able to take care of each other. And if you simply put people back in a shared space, they know exactly how to take care of each other. In our spaces, we lean into prefiguration, that is, the modes of organizing and social relationships that strive to reflect the future society that is being sought by that group. Our goals. So I want to just share this quote because for me, this was from an essay. And they say, it's funny to appreciate a city from a jail bus. But it's very way. Fancy themselves educators, to the bullshit jobs that treat you like a crook from the first day, to the police who menace you everywhere you go. The city taught me the survival mechanisms it would ultimately punish me for, and there is no other way to understand it. And so for me, this really was very inspirational. And I realized that when we talk about returning citizens or people coming home or coming back to society, actually that's very suboptimal. And what we wanted to do was to bypass the normative world and create a world for returning citizens to come back to that is centered around empowerment. So we wanted to really lean into the commons, which is our shared world. And it's our hope that everything in the commons and everything that it offers must be open to all who wish to participate. It's our hope that returning citizens do not return to the same systems that led them down a difficult trajectory, but actually they return into a different social fabric centered around solidarity, mutual emancipation, and collective power. For us, the goal is not to re-enter the existing society, but actually to be empowered to reshape society using the unique skills, critical reflections of the world, and emotional intelligence sustained despite and in response to surviving incarceration. So in these co-created commons and communities, we are all, not just our returning citizens, able to find meaningful work, heal from our traumatic experiences, and build independent community lifelines that help us all move beyond the themes of domination, competition, extraction, and individualism that so often dominates our world. So I just want to introduce our story a little bit so you can have a sense of how we came to be.
Well, I'm moving into the house.
Let me see, that didn't quite start at the beginning. So this is a video from the beginning of our very first house. So this is January 2019.
It's starting over.
It's starting over. Today.
Well, I'm moving into the house. This is the official start of Second Life. I'm hopeful that we're creating a new ripple effect that will affect the community and the lives of other people other than my own.
Today is Sunday. We are about to go and move into our new house. So we have a house on Page Street that we're starting together. How are you feeling?
Feeling really excited. Let's do this.
So Kevin's just come out of transition housing an hour ago. The bags are here. Everything we've got is here. And we're just gonna walk. It's just 2 blocks away from here, from the embassy. And we're gonna meet some of your new housemates.
Look forward to it.
I can't wait to venture out into this journey, see what I can learn. This is new for me, so.
We're in our new house.
Welcome to the house.
Okay, so what questions am I going to ask you? What does this house mean to you?
A new beginning. Absolute freedom. And knowing I have a lot of good friends.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
I guess for me, the house, it is a symbol of hope. I don't know, it's kind of weird because, I mean, it's just amazing how things just developed over the few months and how we got to this point. I mean, like, we had an idea, and then the idea just gained momentum, and with hope and some work, and here we are. And now we're hopeful to build something better.
They can help others in the future too.
Yeah. And so that's what it means for me. It's like this is an environment of healing. We get past the difficulties of our past. Yeah. It's amazing.
So that just gives you a sense of what it felt like for us when we started our first house. So bear in mind, we'd all known each other for some years at that point. So it really was, friendships had already been formed as we were moving into our new house. And that was some years ago now. So I just want to introduce some of the members of our village. There's many, many more. There's too many to put on this screen, but I just wanted to show you some of the faces. And of course, pay attention to our abolitionist Kitty. So now I've introduced our sort of community, I would love to talk a little bit about our sort of how-to guide. So we, over the years, have been collecting the resources and some tips on how you can start something like this for your own community. So the first thing I tend to suggest to people is that it's much easier if you just have somebody else to start with. So find one or two other people that have even a loose similar vision to you for building any kind of community around whatever the shared need that you're looking for. Our community was built around friendship first. We got to know each other through playing Dungeons and Dragons. We used those kinds of events and gatherings, potlucks, to really get to know each other. And we'd spent years together before we started to build physical spaces together and cohabitate. So a tip here is to remember that this is mutual aid. This is not philanthropy, which means the relationships need to be reciprocal. This is not a charity project. Building intentional community is very different from programs or anything sort of led by the state. And it's really important to make sure that that's sort of embedded in the culture early on, especially for a community that has been so oppressed by the state and so used to state programs. Consensual engagement is key. So these are friendships, not professional relationships. And so not everybody gets along, not everybody has shared values. It's okay to say no, is a really important part. So once you've got a couple of people who have a shared vision, we suggest to people that they sit down and think about what that vision actually is. And I tend to tell people, find a loose enough vision that you can come together, but not so strong that you're going to impose it on everybody that comes after you. In this sort of part, I think it's also very important to think about what is missing from your social ecosystem and what kinds of people, what kinds of services, and think about building things that are missing. So the vision does not have to be too controlling. It doesn't have to be too over-determined. I recommend thinking about what's really important to you, what you don't want to budge on, and then try and be fluid on everything else. These are self-determined communities after all, and you don't want to impose too much on everybody that comes after you. So the third phase is to look at what's already out there, see what organizations are there, what other kinds of communities are there, and see if there are things missing. I think at this stage it's really important to allow yourselves to think big. I remember when we started this community, it felt impossible. I remember thinking this is going to be impossibly difficult to do, building houses that are half returning citizens that have served life sentences and half not formally incarcerated people. It seemed extraordinary at the time, and now 5 years on, it seems like a very simple thing to do. But do think big, and also don't be afraid to start very small. I think is a good tip. So one of the early things that I recommend people do is just to gather regularly, to create some sort of regular space where people come together and start to form friendships. This can be a working group or a potluck dinner or a board game night. It sort of doesn't really matter. We've had hundreds of different varieties of these things. The important thing is to get people into a space together so you can get a shape, a sense of your collective shape. At this point, you can start to listen to what the group is asking for. My advice at this point is not to be afraid of changing direction if that's where the group energy is going. The point of having an early vision is so that you don't reinvent the wheel at every phase, but it's okay to let that the vision shift with the new people coming in as well. The other thing is not to worry if no one comes to the events that you host to begin with. In my experience, it often takes a really regular space before people start to realize that there's a community ongoing. So sometimes even for four months or so, people won't reliably come. And then before you know it, they burst into sort of energy and people sort of think, well, you know, this social event has always been present, but of course it's taken someone to host it for a long time for us to get there. Okay, so now you have a regular group of people who are coming together over some sort of shared vision, building relationships and figuring out what they mean to each other. At this point, I think what I suggest is really leaning into an ecosystem. So I call it an ecosystem because ecosystems have many points of entry. I'm letting these people in. Ecosystems have many points of entry. They don't necessarily have centers or have many centers, and they are not homogenized. So you can have people, for example, who like to do some things and not other things. Maybe not everyone's got exactly the same set of shared values. And so you can start to allow for a lot of diversity and variance in your community. At this point, I say fight the urge to monetize things. There's always a point in these community projects that it starts to feel like you should start to charge money or somehow start to sell things, and just recognize that that's not what you got in here for. Fight the urge to homogenize things. These ecosystems should be inclusive to as many people as you can without violating your values. Not everybody needs to be a part of everything. I also recommend at this point connecting with other communities, recognizing that you're not in competition with each other, you are in collaboration. So I've just included this sort of horrible picture, which is an unfortunately hand-drawn picture of our sort of ecosystem, just to show you the range of different things. So we have sort of circles here of people who are in a community because they enjoy gaming, and then we have a house here, and then we have people who are part of other projects, anti-violence projects, and we have people who are part of our support circles. And it's not everybody's involved in everything, and that's really the point I'm trying to get at. And this kind of ecosystem can be maximally inclusive without forcing everyone to participate in the same way. So at this point, when you've got a nice ecosystem going and various ways for people to enter the community, I think it's a great time to start working on your values, working out where people feel about honesties, various sort of forms of reflection, what kinds of collaboration you want to see in your community, what kinds of moral and ethical considerations that you want to imbue in this community. The thing I'd say here is not to get overwhelmed about getting these perfectly right from day one. It is better to have something to work from and to allow these kinds of documents to be living documents. Just plug myself in. So I've included our values and approach here just for consideration. So our communities are centered around 4 principles, which are forgiveness. We believe people's past need not dictate their future. We believe that none of us are defined by the worst nor the best thing that we have done. We believe we are all capable of change. Emancipation, we collectively prepare ourselves for self-sovereignty. Freedom is a collective endeavor, something I call mutually assured autonomy. We practice the sentiment that until we are all free, we are none of us free, which means we are always building more space at the table. Freedom. We believe humans are capable of building for their needs when they have each other. We value peer-to-peer learning through horizontal circles instead of hierarchical learning. Transformative justice. We seek to change the circumstances and conditions that lead to a violent society. So that's what's panned out for us. Emotional ecology has been a really big part of our community, and so we have a lot of what we call support circles. So these are horizontal peer-to-peer structures where people can show up centered on a theme, and in that way the emotional care, the skills of emotional care are distributed in a circle. So the themes that have come up for us over the years of our support circles have been coping with scarcity mindset. How do we get away from the scarcity that has been imposed on us from the past? Dealing with internalized oppression, navigating substancy spaces. How do we make sure our community is inclusive? How do you navigate sex, love, and affection? How do you navigate non-coercive relationships and biofamilies, and reconnecting with our children? So these are all major themes in our community. And then lastly, building spaces. And of course, you don't have to do this. For us, it's been a big part. Space, of course, allows you to share your domesticity. It allows you to share culture and entwine your lives. For us, these are sites of healing and sanctuary. It also allows us to build new intimacies, whether those are social, domestic, financial, legal, and so on. So our physical spaces are what we call sites of transfer culture. That is the manifestation of ideas, processes, behaviors, skills, and activities that are needed to help humans transition from the current social formation to the incoming one. So that's for all of us. That's not for formerly incarcerated people to adjust to this world, but it's for all of us to build the skills that we need for the world we are trying to get to together. That is building the new world in the shell of the old. So I just want to introduce our spaces. So our first house is Sigil, and you met Kevin and Bert, who are our founding team. Sigil is a 5-bedroom place in the Lower Haight of San Francisco, houses 6 individuals that are a mix of returning citizens and not. We are about 2 years old. And Template House is our second house. This is home space for 10 people. We don't currently have 10 people because we are lowering density for COVID. And it sits above 2 commercial spaces that are used as community hubs and free spaces. So before we go into the sort of Q&A and discussion, I just wanted to share what it feels like to be in these spaces, because something that we talk about often when we introduce these spaces and this community to people is that it's not a program, but it's very difficult to imagine what it feels like. And so I'm just going to show you this short video that somebody made for us. We have so many amazing moments in our community, and I often wish that we had more of a window in for people so they can see.
Now I know you got your reasons for why you've been hurting so long in your life. You're searching for meaning, oh, but sometimes you just gotta move along. Oh, and I want you to know, baby, I'm gonna take it slow, 'cause I am so crazy in love with you, baby. Sometimes I don't know if I should even breathe. Don't wanna scare you, don't wanna fail you. Oh, girl, I need you to believe.
Real quick, community has been nothing short of amazing. And that's what it truly has been, because it has been has been a place that's open, welcoming, loving, caring, supportive, instructive. It has guided me. It has shown me. It has shared. You know, it has devoted time and resources. It has done. It has done everything to help me succeed.
And I want you to know and understand, girl, I never felt this way as a man. 'Cause I am so crazy.
Happy birthday.
Sometimes I don't know how to read. Don't wanna say, don't wanna feel you.
Oh my gosh, that's
Oh, girl, I need you to believe. Yes, I am so crazy.
thank you, Barbara. You did an amazing job covering that video. So you can have a sense of what it feels like to be in our homes, and I hope you can get a sense that these are really places that, while it might look like a project from the outside, inside these are simply villages where we are building our lives together, and they're really centered around mutual aid, care, and love. So our offerings to you before we hand over to the discussion is that we have a handbook if anybody wants to set something like this up for yourself. The handbook includes a bunch of examples for how to run support circles, topics, introductory text for running events. We have support circles every week for anyone affected by incarceration, and if anyone you'd like to come to those, you're welcome, or if you would like to start your own, I'm happy to help you. You can follow us on Instagram, which is mostly our cat. I'll put the link in the chat after this, and we'd love to encourage donations also to District Commons, that's our fiscal sponsor. I shall put links to all of those in the chat. But I would like to just open up for discussion, and also mention that I think we have some other members of Second Life on the call. I can't quite see. I think we've got Bert here and Abby. So that is great. Shall I stop sharing now? I think I should stop sharing, yeah. Okay, let me open up the chat. Great. Does anyone have any questions or things they'd like to ask? Oh, Carlin, I think, I'm going to unmute you. There you go, Carlin, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I think that, what can I say? It's lovely program. I'd just like to make a comment that in all the prisons I've been in, we actually did have community in the prison. So that seems to be always, so.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think almost, is this true, Bert? Almost everybody in our community knew each other in prison. I think, can you?
Yeah, definitely it was community. The only difference is that it was unintentional. There was a community based off coercion. What we're trying to do is come together because we want to come together, right? It was like there was, we want to build a life with one another. It's still a lot of dorm living. It's still a lot of, but you know, what we're trying to do is just basically learn from one another, help each other out, and create a team, you know?
Yeah, you did, but I think the community I'm talking about in prison, even though, as you say, it's coerced, there's very few things that aren't coerced under capitalism, as far as I could tell.
True.
And community is where you make it. And I've been in prison half my life, and I made it in prison. I mean, I don't know. Matter of fact, I think my best communities were in prison.
Yeah.
the coercion doesn't really matter to me.
Yeah. But do you have any other reflections or thoughts that you want to add?
No, I think it's, I mean, I work for a 501c3 that does a similar thing. We used to get ex-cons, but our contract got taken away because you know how, I don't know if you're a 501c3, but you know how those things work. Everybody's trying to steal everybody's stuff. So we used to get all the lifers out of San Quentin. I think we might start getting it again, but we'll see.
Well, I think
Yeah, go
that
ahead,
we have no government money, no government connection. We are self-autonomous. Everything that we have, that we, you know, is through the support of the community. And basically we work for it, sweat equity, you know, and I don't think that, I'm sorry, maybe Eldridge could help elaborate, because
Hi, Eldridge. Can you? Oh, we lost them? Did we lose them? Oh yeah. Do you want to unmute, Eldridge? We're just talking about the differences between community while incarcerated and community outside.
Oh, no, it's a world of difference, because inside it's almost like forced. You're forced to commune with other people, you know, because of race or ethnicity. But out here in the free world, you do it by choice, because you choose to do it, because you choose to be a part of a community. You know, prison is basically a lot of things have been by force, or just how the way things have been set up for decades, you know, and it's hard to change. It's hard to change that once it's been institutionalized, you know, by everyone, you know, the guards, inmates, you know, these patterns have been set, and they just stick to them, and it's hard to break away. But like I said, out here in the free world, it's just by choice. You choose to become part of a community because you want to be, you know, not because you just have to be.
And do you think there are any goals that you brought out with you? That's to both of you, Bert and Eldridge.
what was the question? What was the question?
Do you feel like there are any skills that you brought from community inside that have worked for you in building community outside?
Well, yeah, of course. You know, there's when we're on the inside, when we came from cell living into dorms, and as you transition, make that transition from higher levels down to lower levels, you basically, you have to learn skills to survive. And some of those skills positive, and some of those skills are negative. And part of the work is learn to be able to make that distinction between the two skills. And I'll say this, part of what make things, what allowed us to coexist peacefully is our ability to work together. For example, in the dorm, we had to like take turns cleaning the dorm. I mean, the dorm ain't going to clean itself. You know, they have porters, but we had our own little tight-knit communities that we looked out for one another. We looked out for our neighbors, stuff like that. But even amongst the lifer community, we knew each other, even though we didn't know each other. You see what I'm saying? We knew the struggle. Eldridge and I wasn't close, but I knew what Eldridge was involved in. I always seen him coming to school, had books in his hand. He was going all over, going this way or that way. So we knew each other, so we did have community. The other thing is that, because we're fishing a barrel in prison, we know what everybody's involved in. So you can't game us. You can't bullshit a bullshitter. You know what I'm saying? So
so that's why we know what to look for when we support one another. We had a couple guys, one dude been down 46 years, and he come up in here thinking that it's a program, thinking that it's a way to manipulate and get over. And I'm like, bro, this is us. You don't game the gamers. You don't manipulate the manipulators. Come on, man. You know? And so like, and when we work towards past this is, and I'm speaking honestly here, you know what I mean? I'm a criminal and I'm a murderer. I'm guilty of my crimes. I got a file this thick. I've been doing this my whole life, and I've been out for 6 years. I am off parole. I am fully discharged. I am free. And never in my life would I imagine that I would have my freedom building a life with beautiful people. You know what I mean? And it was through that same honesty that has gotten me here. I mean, I don't know what else to say, that, you know, to highlight a little bit about what we're trying to do here is trying to create a symbiotic relationship with people that have never been incarcerated before, and the people, the life, more particularly the lifer community of us that's been incarcerated, because, you know, lifers are serious about their lives. You know, lifers want to, you know, lifers want to, they want to better themselves. You see what I'm saying? And so coming out, well, you know, let Aaron's part of this community too.
Hang on, somebody has a question.
Oh.
Let me just, but feel free to answer, Aaron. Carsten, I'm going to unmute you.
Hey, yeah, let's see, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, this is really impressive, I must say. I have two questions. One is, I'm not clear quite how you all came together. I mean, what was the process by which you created this quite diverse community? It's really impressive, but there must have been some real work that went into getting you all together. And the second question is, I'm sure you have various conflicts that come up. What do you do with the conflicts? I mean, not just that you apply these principles, but how do you actually deal with them?
Nice. You guys want to take these? You want to, but you know our origin story. You want to share it? We haven't got too long, so
I'll say this.
Yeah.
Zarina shared a little bit about Dungeons and Dragons, role-playing games. That was the beginning. You know, we came together to start playing Dungeons and Dragons, and it blossomed from there. Naturally, we created relationships, and then those relationships started to build into snowball, and here we are today. Just to sum that up, as far as like conflicts and tensions and stuff like that, because we are human beings and we do get angry, we have the skills. We proved it to the board. We had to go in front of the board and explain to them why we did what we did. For myself, it was second-degree murder. I had the skills in place so that I won't do it again. I won't behave in a way that will land me back in prison. And living in this community, there's a commitment that we all agree to, that we are going to behave and we are going to learn the skills so that we don't fall back into those same patterns. We've had conflicts, we've had tensions, we've had guys violate us. This one guy, what I'm talking about, we had this value of not bringing alcohol into the house because, you know, there's some people that have restrictions in parole. We want to be parole ready at all times because that's how we have to support one another. And this dude was bringing booze into the house. I had to turn him in. I mean, to the community. I said, I don't know what to do here because what I want to do is I want to throw this motherfucker out by the belt loops. You know what I mean? That's what I know, you know? And so when we come to community, the community is the people that's been teaching me, you know? And he says, look, we had to ask him to leave. You know, that was hard. You know, and that's what we do. We don't do nothing in isolation anymore. You know what I mean? We make mistakes, sure. But it's not the end of the world. People get pissed off. It ain't the end of the world. You know, we have good times and bad times, you know, you know.
Yeah. When
go ahead.
Ask somebody to leave, was that a collective decision? How does that work?
Actually, at the time, I think actually, but we didn't ask them to leave. We asked them a bunch of questions, and they volunteered to leave because I think they realised that they had violated not a rule but a shared agreement, and the shared agreement was centered on our survival. It wasn't a rule from the outside world, and so it was a very somber and very tragic moment actually. This person had never really had community the way that we had, and I think they both really enjoyed it and weren't ready for it, so it was very painful.
I mean, that's exactly right. We told them, I mean, it was like, you're not ready for this. It was 3 months of this, of this behavior. It's not just one isolated incident. It was 3 months of this behavior. So, you know what I mean? We did the best we could, and you have to be ready for this. You have to be able to adapt, and because community is not for everybody. You know, some people like the isolation and be by themselves and live in a corner. You know, that's on them. But we building lives together here. You know.
Eldritch and Aaron, do you have thoughts on? Eldritch and Aaron, do you have thoughts on conflict and how it's transpired and ways that we've dealt with it?
I actually was thinking more to the original question of how did we come together, and what I'd like to say about that is that initially after I paroled, I was uncomfortable around anyone who wasn't formally incarcerated, and it was a huge limitation in my life. I felt a great deal of anxiety. I felt like everybody could see right through me and know my past and was judging me. And the only time when I didn't feel that was when I was with other formerly incarcerated people, Bert included. I met Bert within days of being paroled, and it was gradually. So there is I'd say there's a pretty tight knit network of formerly incarcerated folks, at least here in San Francisco, and really throughout the state, because I'm connected with a lot of people up and down the state. So that isn't a huge leap. That network exists. The difficulty is transitioning out of that and into, you know, society at large. And so I'd say, I want to say that I think I owe a great debt to Zarina, or I think this community owes a great debt to Zarina and other folks like her who have gone out of their way to build bridges between folks who are not system involved and those that are, and it's I believe an intention, and it takes a great deal of work, and so I'd say that's a key factor in building those bridges and creating a diverse community that includes folks from all walks of life. And then as far as conflict, you know, I think all human beings, you know, are on a spectrum when it comes to dealing with conflict. I can't stand it. I try to avoid it. It makes me really uncomfortable. But when you're in a community of people, whether it's inside an institution or outside, you're forced to deal with it because there's friction points that come. And I think the bigger and the stronger the community and the bonds, the more experience there is to lean on. And that just helps immensely, at least from my perspective.
We have a question. Yeah, I think that's right. And I'll say the conflict resolution or the conflict process is very circular. You know, Aaron's mediated difficult conversations for me. We've all sort of been the neutral party trying to help get past conflict in the community. Okay, so there's a question in the chat. Can you say more about the process of entering the community? How do you welcome new members? Is there a learning process that you walk them through? You want to take that?
No, me?
Anyone?
I take it. Well, my introduction to the community came. How can I say? My circumstances led me to the community. You know, I was incarcerated for just about 3 decades, and it was how the way I was released that led me to the community, because I was released with no parole, no probation or anything. I would at the 29 years and some months, I would just let out of prison because of a change in the law that reversed my murder conviction. I was exonerated for the murder that I was committed for. So circumstances as they were, I was homeless when I got out. I didn't have a place to go, and I didn't have nothing but the money that they gave me once I was released. And my lawyer, he helped. He had a place for me to go, but that fell through. And this guy Marvin Munch, he told me that this guy Marvin Munch was going to come and talk to me. He came, we talked, and that led me to the community, because he said, well, I'm gonna call the embassy. As everyone knows this story, he said, I'm gonna call the embassy. And I was like, the embassy? And then he called, and his voice came over the phone, and it was Zarina with her accent. And I was like, I can't believe it. I said, this MF, he called the fucking embassy for real, you know? And and I thought he called the British embassy. I thought he really did, but but no, he was calling Zarina. And he said, I got this guy who just got out of prison who has anything. You think you can give him some place to stay? He said, sure, bring him on over. And I was on my way over to San Francisco from Vancouver, California. And that was my introduction to the community that first day. And I've been a part of it ever since. And I don't see myself leaving it, because, I mean, this is, like I've stated many times before, that this is what
Just you mute.
Huh? What happened? Am I back?
You're good. We can hear you now.
Okay. No, this is what I've been looking for, to be part of something. And this community is what I've been wanting to be a part of, because on the inside, we do a lot of work on the inside, because for the crimes we have committed, the lifestyle that we lived, we have to change the way we think, the things we value. We have to go through a metamorphosis of some sort to be able to come out here and live in this society, because we can't come out here in this society with the same values that we had before. Because if we did, we will be bound to fail. But we do a lot of work on the inside, which people don't hear enough of. Is we take all kind of classes on the inside, you know, conflict or resolution classes, insight classes, victim awareness classes. I mean, it's so many classes that we take, you know, and that's not to say that everyone takes them, but those who are really who are motivated to change, they do. And when you come out here, it makes it so easy for us to become a part of a community, because we see the values that we want in the people that we are associated with now. They have the values that we want to aspire to have, you know. I mean, hardworking, you know, law abiding, love, sharing, community. These are the things that we want. These are the things that we value, and to be a part of it, I mean, it's so easy, you know, because it shows that the work that we was doing on the inside, it really works, you know, because you could come out here and you can apply it every single day. Because I happen to work in a SIP site, which is a shelter-in-place hotel in San Francisco, and I deal with conflict every single day. I mean, I'm a supervisor of 400 plus guests and 20 employees, and I deal with all of them every day. So I got to deal with being cussed out, called by my name, looked at funny, you know. I mean, but I take it on the chin and just like, hey, I roll with it, because of what I've learned on the inside. And I know that there's a bigger picture. You know, I don't take nothing personal. You know, I'd rather talk about something than get physical, you know, because I got much more to lose, you know. and I value my community, the people I'm around, because they bring so much joy and pleasure to my life. Hey, I don't want to be nowhere else. I mean, all y'all should come get a piece of this because I mean, hey, it'll make your life a whole lot better. I tell you that much.
Yeah, I think that's right. For context, Bert and Eldritch and Aaron are all at Template House right now, which is the Instagram I posted if anyone wants to pop in there. And that's one of the two houses. Just to touch on this, how do people enter the community? It is a difficult thing. So for our not formally incarcerated community, it's fairly easy because we run a ton of events. We've got a D&D group. We have, we're running a D&D game. Our dungeon master played D&D while incarcerated for a very long time and has an infamous history with D&D in prisons. We have potlucks and tons of things. There's lots of ways for non-formally incarcerated people to get involved. Forging the links with people who are currently incarcerated or in transitional housing is a little bit harder, actually, especially under COVID. So sometimes members of our community go to the LIFA meetings, which are in the parole department. We have started to run support circles inside prisons. Funnily enough, you can now do that by Zoom because of COVID. And so we're trying to make sure that we have solidarity at every juncture, because it's very scary to be coming back untethered. But that's definitely something that we could lean into doing a better job on. Great. Any other questions or any last comments, Bert, before we?
I will just say this, that part of the motivations of what I like to contribute here at Template and Sigil is that when I was incarcerated, I felt like a product. It came to a point where I realized that they didn't care about my crime. They just cared about keeping me locked up because tax dollars filled those blue shirts. I realized that, under the guise of public safety, because I was changing, I was learning new skills, and I didn't get a chance. I myself served 20 years on a 15 to life sentence. Other people were not so lucky. I know guys that 40, 45 years on a second degree. I know guys that have first degree that did less time. It just to highlight how broken the system is. So the conclusion that I drew was that there was no support for change. It's like they wanted me to be a vicious animal. The system wanted me to be a vicious animal, didn't want me to change and learn new skills. They wanted me to just stay that murderer, stay that vicious, violent person, and I had to figure out for myself, who am I as a person? What do I stand for? And what am I going to say no to? And building in this community, it's been hard because there's a lot of new information, but what has been a good guide is do what I saw opposite in prison, It makes it real easy. Segregation. Okay, that's obvious. We're going to diversify the fuck out of this place, and it didn't change. Even after I got out, I went to a program. I went to all these programs, Unfortunately, I went to all these parole programs, and I was a product there too. And what's crazy is that when I come over here and I try to bring people in and we try to create a home, an intentional home, guys that are coming out, part of that institutionalization is, what kind of program is this? This is a program. It's always a program. What services do you offer? I'm like, bro, this is a home. You could do whatever the fuck you want to do, right? That's what we're trying to build here. Autonomy, self-determination. The dishes need to be clean. They ain't going to clean themselves. You got to clean the dishes. The toilet need to be scrubbed. Me and Eldridge kicked ass the other day. We cleaned the whole damn house, and that's the grit. That's the work that makes community work, That's what makes this work, is that we come together like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's wonderful. One thing I didn't really touch on, but it is remarkable to me, especially in San Francisco, is that these houses are such diverse spaces, from like varied ages, racial backgrounds, gender presentations, and that's really unique and actually very mesmerizing. Anyway, I think we're at time, and I just want to say we have guest rooms in a post-COVID world. If anybody wants to come and stay, find us and you can come and stay. Yeah, thanks all for coming. Do I close out or do I hand over to someone, Jordan?
If I would just like to thank all of you, especially you, Zarina, and to Bert, Aaron, and Aldridge for sharing your experiences. I think that everybody in the room will have gained something from. I mean, I found myself almost crying and laughing and smiling at each of your stories and your experiences being shared in the videos. So thank you so much for taking the time, and even for kind of distilling your values into this kind of package that can be used by other people in other places to set up homes and communities like the ones that you're talking about. It's just incredible to see the work that you're doing. So thank you so much for your presentation and your sharing of experience. I'd also like to thank Rarity and Barbara for their ASL interpretation throughout this session. And of course, our conference organisers, Amy, for running the session on Zoom, and to Marina for also monitoring. So thank you so much, everybody. If anyone has any follow-up questions they'd like to pass on to Second Life, you're welcome to email them to us or put them in the chat and we will pass them on, and any interaction that can happen afterwards we can manage through our website. So thank you so much to everybody.
Bye, everyone.